Welcome to Week 7. In this week's lecture, we will expand our dialogue about the performance measures of governments and not-for-profits. We will scrutinize the three types of audits conducted by governments and how federal requirements impact not-for-profits and other governments. Our coursework and discussion questions will allow you to apply knowledge about the Yellow Book and Single Audit Act and related auditing procedures. You will also increase your ability to synthesize audit reports. To stay on track with your learning, do not neglect to review the learning goals for this week. Now let's get started. First, the key difference between financial audits and government or not-for-profit entities is the larger focus on compliance with regulations, contractual and grants requirements, and laws. The Government Accountability Office, GAO, mandates that compliance tests and compliance violations are included in audit reports. As an example, suppose you are an auditor for a local government, or maybe a not-for-profit organization that has received an award from one of the federal agencies, for instance, Health and Human Services. As the auditor, even if an independent CPA firm, you would provide a compliance audit and adhere to all other GAO applicable standards. The Government Accountability Office has no authority to regulate the audits of either state or local governments or not-for-profit organizations. However, as you can see from my earlier example, the government auditing standards, commonly known as the Yellow Book, influences, in addition to its own departments and agencies, the reporting of state, local governments, and not-for-profit organizations. The Generally Accepted Government Auditing Standards, GAGAS, place much more emphasis on compliance with laws and regulations than do generally accepted auditing standards, which you learned or will learn in your financial and auditing classes. Next week, we will examine in detail these agencies of the federal government. If you were the auditor of a local government or not-for-profit, what types of audits would you conduct? Financial audits, which would be in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles. Possibly a special engagement audit, which would include verification about cost of contracts, internal accounting, and administrative controls of your organization. The performance audit, basically it is an operational audit. It determines if objectives are being achieved and provides measures for improvement. Most of us are more conversant with the performance audit. Recall the many convention centers that were constructed and are still being constructed for sports and other activities. Most often, the promise is that these centers' revenues will cover all expenses, including debt service costs. Most often, within 6 years, the centers annually report operating deficits in lieu of the positive projections of sports events, conventions, and other activities. As the city auditors who conducted a performance audit for this particular failing convention center, what would we discover and recommend to the city council or commissions? There are many possible approaches that we as auditors would take. We would review the projections on which the decision to construct the convention center was made. We would discern whether the marketing and other programs are adequate as designed to meet the projections. We would also test the program to ascertain whether it is operating as intended. There are several items that we would need to tie into. However, the Generally Accepted Government Auditing Standards offers ample information on performance audits. Now recall we mentioned the three types of audits we would execute. Wait, we have more. When should a single audit be conducted? Assume you have an independent auditor and you have been this independent auditor for several years, for both a local government and for a not-for-profit. And these entities are recipients of increasing amounts of funding and assistance programs. Do you now conduct a legislatively sanctioned single audit? The answer is yes, because your organization now receives more than $750,000 of federal funds and also met other criteria mandated by the Single Audit Act. What are your challenges? First, the financial component of the audit. It is basically the same as non-federal audits. It includes the financial statements, assurance or not, that the statements can be relied upon, accompanies stat notes, and is conducted under generally accepted government auditing standards. Second, the compliance component includes tests of compliance with applicable federal laws and regulations. Continue to review the Single Audit Report, including its many requirements, and the other 3 audits at gao.gov. You can listen to the Yellow Book podcast at the same URL.